Hello there and welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ngani Titan. Well, what can I say? On the final day of the sale, I failed my will check and actually went and purchased the Valkyria Chronicles tanks. And I played the last couple of days the Nameless. You can see the armor profile of it here as I go through the different layers of armor. I played it over the last couple of days, completed the Nameless op, and I decided to do a tank review of it. So it's my first ever proper tank review, and I hope you will bear with me a little. What can I say about it? You can see the armor there. The side armor is flat. It's 80mm according to the Tankopedia. The lower front plate is quite pinnable as far as I can make out, as are the sides of the turret. However, if the turret's facing forward, it is quite difficult. There's a decent slope, both vertically and horizontally in that turret armor. And in the upper section of the front plate that glaces there above the driver, the lower section of the front plate is actually quite strong, and that band down around the in front of the tank hull is actually the strongest armor of all. It is the 210mm. The 231 shows up as the gun breech. The armor is not as strong as the statistics given by Quickie Baby in his review video for the PC version, but it is pretty strong overall. It actually holds up very well at tier. However, my experience has been that once you encounter higher tier tanks, tier 9s, tier 10s particularly, that armor doesn't stand up at all. They punch through this tank quite easily, but it will hold up very well against tier 8s and lower tier tanks. And you can see there the various crew compartments, the modules, the ammunition and so forth. So what is it like to play? That's enough of that, and I think it demonstrates my point. The 2 points or 3 points that it makes is, one, the armor is actually pretty good and will take a fair bit of punishment, but it is not an I win button. The other thing is that the tank commander never shuts up. She just natters away as soon as you run into enemy tanks and you take fire. You can see anything at all. The other thing was that it was a huge shock to the system for me to get used to playing a tank at tier 8 with no skills at all, because I had no skills at all. I had this thing arrives at 100% skill mastery. I've played 30 odd battles to win the Nameless operation, and I still haven't trained up, and I was using by 3 boosts and stuff like that, so I still haven't trained up a complete skill on this tank. Now, the gun is good. The gun handling is pretty good. The problem is bringing the gun to bear, as you saw in that video. You need to stay away from ridge lines. You need to stay away from anything other than the flattest of flat terrain. Any bump in the ground will drive your gun up into the moon. In fact, this tank is so tall. It's the height of the tank. I mean, you have tanks like the Churchill 1 and the IS series and stuff like that have similar or even worse gun depression. But this thing is so tall that so many things are under the gun depression. I suspect that if an Object 140 or something like that rolls up beside this tank, or an AMX ELC rolls up beside this tank, you just simply wouldn't be able to bring the gun to bear on it at all. In fact, later on you will see me up against an IS type tank, and I can just about hit the commander's cupola, and that's it. So if I come up with a variant then with a very strong commander's cupola, I'm essentially screwed. I reckon some of the Russian tier 8 mediums, if they face hug this thing, are just impossible to hit, even side hugging it. And while the frontal armor is pretty good, the rest of it is only okay. So this is something you really have to be careful of. So running into, yeah, I mean, it'll bounce a lot of shots, bounce the M6 there, but it is definitely going to have issues with any kind of tank that's smaller than itself that comes in really close. It gets less than 100 meters away, or even 150 meters away. You're going to have problems, and you've got to be careful with the terrain. You've got to be very aware of the terrain you're on, and be very aware of where on the terrain, because literally, like driving over a wall, say those timber fortifications in Runeberg and stuff like that, will just drive your gun up into shooting at the eaves of the houses, and you simply won't be able to bring the gun down. You get tracked on top of one of them and you're dead. This game in Windstorm is my best game in it so far. Starts out kind of average enough. We seem to be doing alright. Nothing particularly special, and there's that Glory IS-5 heading towards our cap circle, and I'm in pursuit. Now, the other thing with this tank is it's actually extremely mobile. It's fast. It does 50 kilometers an hour quite easily. Now I have a tank here beside me, so I thought, and we're losing tanks. We're actually bleeding tanks. The last few minutes we've just lost so many tanks. But I said I'd get rid of him before I would go after the Glory IS-5. I thought I'd be able to push him into the river, but he actually managed to pull himself out of that situation. But we kill him. Anyway. So now I'm left with the dilemma: do I abandon the cap circle and go assist my allies down in the enemy cap circle? And I thought, if I do, there's at least 2 heavy tanks down there. There's a good chance they'd cap out before we'd have cleared the area around the enemy cap circle. So I thought I'd better go and defend the cap circle, and try, at least maybe try and keep one of the artillery alive. And I think this was the correct decision. Now, at the moment there's just 1 tank down there, so I'm heading down. I'm getting a bit of lag now and again, but it's not too bad, and hopefully it doesn't happen anytime critical. Now I snap off a shot there, but that's against the corner of a Glory IS-5. Not a tank I'm terribly familiar with. I haven't run into too many of them, so I track him, and I was hoping that the artillery might be able to assist me with the track, but he actually still had his repair kit. He's got the tracks back up and running, and he's coming around into the low ground, and we're now down to 3 tanks, and there are 5 enemy tanks. So he decides he's going to come around and face me. Don't know where that shot went. Managed to get a penetrating hit in there because he just showed too much to the side of the tank. And this is where you can see, even here now, okay, as he's closing in, the getting gun depression is becoming an issue, and he closes into the face hug. And that's it. I can't bring the gun down lower than the cheeks of the turret. There's no point in firing shots into the side of a turret, the front of a turret of an IS. And the artillery finishes him off. So actually I was quite fortunate. I think I'd have still beaten him, because I think 1 more shot at the commander's hatch would have done the trick, and I was firing the good stuff at this stage. But the fact that the artillery took the shot was very positive, because it meant that the artillery player actually had some clues to what he was doing. So now I wasn't too sure what to do. My choice was to stick around the cap circle or go looking for the enemy tanks. Now I thought it'd be worth coming into the town. I didn't want to go around into the open ground there on the either the western or northern side of the map, because that's fairly rough terrain and it wouldn't favour the Nameless. It's also very much in kind of arty shadow, so the arty wouldn't be able to support me. Whereas I could probably find spots around the town, and I'd be still close enough to the cap circle to get back. So the first customer turns up in the form of a stew meal, and we just leave him on a sliver of health, and he's taken out my tracks. Now this time I was getting very concerned that the tanks behind me would shoot me in the ass, because backside of this tank, near where those vertical flanges are, is the weakest armor in the whole tank. It's only like 20mm or something. It's really, really weak armor. And I need to get rid of the Stewart Meal. I can't turn the side of the back of my tank to him. Now I bounce a shot there off the corner of the Stewart Meal, which is rather foolish of me really, and I'm now taking fire from the rear. And this thing turns like a pig. 26 degrees per second turn rotation, and the same with the turret. The T-34 turret and tank turns faster than this thing. The American T-34, the US, the big heavy one, which is a lumbering giant of a tank. However, I've out two T-29s, and the artillery comes and rescues. I had one of them tracked, so the artillery takes out one of them and actually does damage to both. I would have been in much more serious trouble if they had actually split up and come at me from separate directions. This guy is still tracked, so we finish him off. And the Churchill has me tracked from where I can't see him. So we finish off the T-29. And as long as the Churchills keep shooting into the tracks from there, I'm not going anywhere because I don't have any repair skills in this thing. So I signal to the artillery that I'm immobilized. Hopefully that he might be able to get into position to shoot the Churchill. Fortunately for me, the Churchill isn't doing any damage, but he sticks the corner of his tank out there, and I managed to get some damage. Now the artillery gets some damage, and that's going to force the Churchill to move. So when he does, I'm going to take advantage of that, put a round into him, and manage to finish him off. So there we have it. We get 5 kills, 15 damaging ribbons, and quite a bit of assisted damage as well. 145,000 silver. Not sure whether there was a not boosting silver there. I don't think there was. It's actually a pretty decent silver earner. Over 3k damage, nearly 1500 assisted, 3k blocked. 2 and 3k blocked damage in a game is actually common enough with this tank. But the problem is the gun handling at in any kind of rough terrain. Sorry, that should be the gun depression. The gun actually handles quite well, but the gun depression is pretty poor. Actually, yeah, the 100,000 was from the completing the Edelweiss Ace thing. But yeah, aside from that, though, it is a decent silver. It's a consistent silver earner. There may be some tanks that are better silver earners, and also I should give a shout out to Trollalolly there, the artillery player, for his support, without which that game would have probably had a different ending. It's okay. I think it's a tank that if you learn its tricks and are willing to put up with its weaknesses, you could probably do very, very well in, particularly at tier and against lower tier tanks. I think it's pretty painful against higher tier tanks, and some maps really won't suit it. Now I'm off to play the Edelweiss and complete the Edelweiss op, and I haven't tried the Edelweiss yet, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you again soon.